Okay, so this is going to be a little video on me putting my 2-inch Terrafirma suspension upgrade on my 2003 Land Rover Discovery 2. First thing I'm doing is I've just got a little bit of penetrating oil. There are 4 bolts, or nuts I guess. 1, 2, 3, and then 4 back there. And the replacement that I'm doing, I've actually ordered new of these. I guess I don't know what you want to call it, your shock tower, I guess. But you can see I have an older Land Rover Discovery, and I do live in a salty, like this is I live in a place where there's snow. So there is salt on the roads, and you can see it's starting to split, and they weren't very expensive. So I decided it will probably be good for the upgrade. So yeah, we just want to hit all 4 of these nuts. And then down here on the bottom, there's 1 on this side that's holding in the shock, and there's 1 on this side. So we're gonna hit both of those with some penetrating lube. And like I said, I've already hit these, so they're already juiced up. And I actually did them a couple days ago as well, just to make sure everything comes out nice and easy, because we do have salt on the roads and everything gets a little bit rusty. I don't know if you guys can see the bearings in this, but they're the gaskets, whatever they are. The rubber is just all coming apart, and I'm happy I'm getting this replaced. And even the springs, I'm sure it's just paint rusting off, but I can see it's kind of rusted underneath. There's a little hump. So probably good that I decided to do this. So okay, so we will get back at her tomorrow when I'm ready to fully take this on. One other thing that I will mention is, for doing this lift, I've noticed I've seen a bunch of other videos, and some of them I've seen, they've disconnected the drive shaft, because I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a little brace underneath, and you have to lower the front axle to get space to get the new springs in. So I'm hoping I don't have to remove this piece right here, and I'm hoping that I've got some spring tensioners, I guess, and I'm hoping that I can get them low enough. But that's kind of how I've got it sitting up on jacks. I've just kind of picked that location. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either. And then I can just use my jack to raise and lower the front axle as needed. So yeah, if you have a Land Rover Discovery 2 and you're looking at doing a Terrafirma 2-inch spring and coil lift kit, hopefully this video helps. What we need to do for getting these front shocks and springs out is we are going to have to take out 1, 2, 3, and 4 nuts here, and then we're also going to have to take out the 2 bottom bolts, and those are all a 13 mil. So I've already got them off on this side. So I've taken out 1, 2, 3, and 4. The front ones are pretty easy. The rear ones, there's not much space to ratchet your wrench, so it takes a little bit longer, but it works. So now what we've got going on here is, because I don't have a lift and I can't get the axle super far down, and I'm not interested in replacing or in disconnecting the drive shaft or taking this bracket off to get some more space. What I'm going to try to do is see if I can't compress this spring down. So I'm just tightening down each side. A little bit at a time. You can already see it starting to split there at the top.
Seems like it's got a little bit of space now. Just tighten this one up. This is looking like it should work pretty good.
Okay, so now that we've got a little space, I had to cut one zip tie that was holding this cord onto the top of this. Now, should just be able to pull this. Might need two. Should be able to pull this. Pull it up and out. And there we go. So we've got everything out that we need to get out. I'm just going to come back in here with a rag, get a bunch of this cleaned up, wipe down, and okay, so I am ready to put the new spring back in. I've cleaned up the plate. I sprayed a little bit of WD-40 down in the holes just to clear out some of the gunk. I've got the new rubber piece, whatever it is, up top, and it should just stay there. Okay, so I did have to take this spring out and tighten these up a little bit more to get it fit in. But once I tightened it up a little bit, it wasn't any problem. Slotted the bottom end in first, making sure that that flat piece is at the back. It lines up with the holder. You see what I'm talking about whenever you get to it. And then I just kind of tilted it up onto this front gasket. Took a screwdriver, placed it in between the front here, pushed this side up, and then just kind of slid it all the way back in. Then once it was slid in, I could just pull this gasket down a little bit, this rubber piece and whatever. It's there now. So now I will continue on with the shock, the shock, and then the tower will get put in as well. So this is just sitting here loose. And okay, so I've gone ahead and put a bunch of this together here. So first thing that I did was I put the spring in. I put this gasket in first, then put the spring in. Then I dropped the shock down in. I just started these bolts down here. I didn't tighten them up, just started them. And then I put the tower on top, got some of the bolts started, none of them tight, it was all still loose. And then I came up here, had my bolts ready, cut the little Teflon or strap that was on the shock. The shock really raises quite slowly, so I just waited for it to rise up in between the two spots, slipped my bolt in, and this is all loose now. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to tighten up these top bolts first. These front ones are pretty good because you can get quite a range of motion on your wrench. But the ones in the back are a little less. There's a little less space, so it takes a little bit longer. Okay, so now that I've got the tensioners off of the spring, sitting in there nicely, I have taken my jack and I've used it to lift up this side of the axle. And what that's done is it's helped close the gap between here. It's flattened that up, helped this seat a little bit better. And on the other side as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish tightening these bolts up. And I'm just going to finish off the other side. Okay, so mine's the mess. I had a little bit of troubles with the driver's side. So it's all in now. This rear bolt nut is very hard to get on. You have to, the only way I found to do it was to go in from here, and you get like 1/8 of a turn with your wrench, and then you have to switch it, then do the other side, then switch it, then do the other side. But it took a long time, but I got it on there. I also had some issues with the bottom of this spring seating fully against the plate underneath it. I had to put on and off the spring compressors and just adjust it and turn it so it fit. Now that I've got some weight on it, it seems like it's seating pretty well. I've just tightened up the top bolt now that it's sitting on its own weight on its wheels and tires, and I've done the same over here on this side. This side was a breeze, no problem. Another thing I should mention is that I actually had to bend a little bit of this out further because it's up touching here. So I just took a pair of channel locks, grabbed it, kind of pinched it out, pulled it out, and it gave enough room. I'm not too worried about how it looks down here, but it fits now. So before it was just pushed back a little bit and these bolts wouldn't line up exactly right. So yeah, I just bent that forward a little bit and gave some room to fit this in. So now it's looking like it's all fitting properly. It's sitting on its own weight now. And I can already see there's quite a bit more room underneath there, more room for activities. So I'm going to get this put back together. I've just got to slide this back in place, and this as well back in place. So I don't know if I filmed taking this off, but it was relatively easy. Just undid the clips, undid a gear clamp here, a gear clamp here, and it all popped out. So I will get working on putting that back together. So starting on the rear suspension for Discovery 2 Terrafirma lift kit. First things first, so I've got the vehicle up on jacks. I've taken off the wheels and I've let the axle lower down as far as it can. First things first is we're going to want to remove this bolt here. It's a 3/4 inch bolt. And then we're also going to want to remove the 3/4 inch bolt right here. I've already sprayed them with penetrating oil couple days ago, and I'll spray it once more just to help it loosen up and slip out of there. And then I've also sprayed a little bit of penetrating lube along the seal here where it looks like it's kind of rusted in place. For this one, we do not have to remove these bolts. The only thing we have to do is tension the spring down, and it should slip out of there. Okay, so now that we've got our tensioners on, each are snug, not really putting any compression in yet. I'm just gonna start tightening them. Tighten each side, I don't know, 5 or 6 turns each side. Okay, so now that we've brought it down where this rubber gasket is below this peak, as long as it's not stuck down here too bad, we should just be able to pull it out. And it is stuck on the bottom there. So I'm just gonna give it a few taps. Okay, so I've got the new spring inside. It wasn't too bad. I had to use the spring compressors quite a bit to get it shrunk down. What I did though that helped is I took a measurement of how tall the old spring was and used that for reference whenever I was putting the new spring, or I was tightening the spring down, so I knew what to stop it, and 14 was around my number. I didn't get right there, but it was close enough to slot it in. So what I'm gonna do now is I've grabbed the top rubber metal piece, is all rusty, but so it's rust this vehicle, and I'm just gonna pop it back in the top. I might have to push down a little bit, and use 2 hands. But I'll go ahead and get that seated now. So what I've done is after getting the gasket back up in there, I've taken my jack and lifted up on the axle just a little bit to seat the top in, and it snugged right up. Now I've also put a little bit of extra tension on the axle so the spring is not moving anymore. So I can come in here and start loosening off my spring compressors. Okay, so I've gone ahead and installed the top of the shock. And it was fairly easy, just slid it up in, put the bolt in, tightened it up. It's still a little loose up there. And now comes time for fitting the bottom. And there we go. So I've tightened up the top bolt and the bottom bolt, and this thing is ready to get its tires back on. So now that we have the lift kit installed in both the front and rear, this is what the vehicle looks like. Definitely got a little bit more stance, a lot more room in between the tires and the fenders. overall, the install went well. A couple issues, but nothing that you can't take on yourself.